Well, g'day race fans, welcome to part number 2 of the talk with the fabulous one, Johnny Fenton. Coval was going to get in and have a chat, but he's got a phone call, so had to shoot off. He's going to join us a little bit later if he can, get back. So I just want to touch on, John, like something like maybe your racecraft, maybe something to do with, did you talk your way through races? Did you think about how the race was going to pan out before the race, or did you sort of just start the race, get a good start as possible and go?
You don't really talk yourself through the race, you think yourself through the race.
Yep. Okay.
You know, that's why I looked at it. I remember I drove Ronnie Pymont and Cole to me as Offenhauser in a 50 lapper at Claremont Speedway on the Friday night, and got on the plane that night and flew to New Zealand to race in the Bob Tattersall Memorial race in Auckland, New Zealand at Western Springs, and were lucky enough to win it. And it was one of my dreams that you could race at Claremont Friday night and you could do something because of what you put together with your sponsorship, and you know, you just want to be a hero of what you're doing in your own mind, and that lunchbox turned to gold the way you went, you know. And the Offenhauser, but unfortunately I didn't break a right end somewhere through the race, and that put us on the infield. But you think how you're going to drive that race when it starts and they're all around you and everything. You got to look at the opportunities that are there, or you can just charge into it and see what happens. Or and it may, but in some cases it may not. But most things can open up for you if you feel you're in command. That's what I look at, and I watch a lot of guys that just charge into it. And think, oh, I'll get through there. That time we used to have 24 cars in the feature race, and it was an honour to start at the rear. You had to work your way to be off the rear of the field, whereas today they all want to start in the front row, you know.
Well, that's why there was a lot of handicapping systems back then. And
our handicap system was that the further back you went, the better you were. And if you had sponsors, they want to see you do your thing from the back of the pack. And you work through a 20 lap feature race or 25, and later they grew to 30s. But today it's gone a bit back the other way, and obviously the fields aren't as strong because of the amount of money you've got to spend. But we did it with a Holden starting to win from the rear, and when you walked and looked at the pit board where you were starting, I thought if I went forward a couple of rows, well, that's it, you're done, you're out of here, you're not going to make it. And if you didn't say, look at number 7, I'm off the rear, I've kept my ground. It was an honour to do that, and you had to do that. That's the will you had, was to pass. I didn't worry so much about the heat race, because I wasn't going to rip the gear up to win an 8 lap feature race. But some guys want to win a 1 lap feature race straight away, immediately. They haven't got time to wait for the other 30. You know,
different driving styles.
And it's up to them. You know, it's how we've grown to it. And in the modern era, you see them. They've got these slide jobs. They do the slide under,
which is pretty scary. Some of them are scary.
You know, they are. And whether it's, I think it's great, and you talk to them, they look and you see them come in underneath it. But we're not talking about Kyle Larson doing it. And up against, Christopher Bell or whatever you want.
That's right.
So we went to New Zealand last summer with Rodney Bennett, and we saw a lot of good stuff there. And those top boys can have their night on their head. It can happen. And that slide job stuff is good where it's good. But some of our drivers are just battling to get a few laps done. I mean, some guys have been trying down there for years, and one in particular probably, I'll get suckers and something given to me out of this, but the Norths, I mean, they'd be better off heading north, because it's too hard. They're just not up to what's got to be dealt, and it's a danger to other. Slow cars are just as bad as fast cars. They can get in your road. You go to Kwinana Beach, where they get around in 16 seconds. It's pretty quick, and the top speeds are good. And a speed car, midget, whatever you want to call it, you haven't got a lot of real protection, and that G-force can knock you around a bit. And they're very expensive. A lot of money. Motors today are a lot of money. They're not like grabbing the old Holden and getting it going. We use Volkswagens, and I went to America and bought a brand new Volkswagen engine from Autocraft back in 1978 with Gary Gardner. He supplied the car and I the motor. And I bought it from Autocraft, and we went and did just 3 races, I think. But you can't go there to do that. It was but it was only done as a fun thing. And
Yeah. You had some great sponsors too. You had Thermo King.
I had Thermo King and Oxford Cars with earlier days with Alf Barbagallo. Alf Barbagallo did so much for us to help us go racing.
Okay.
Alf was a really good man. I went with him and Vince Carboni 1971 to America, and we bought a sprint car for him, which he sold. He had to sell it on us because we did through that time of no clutches and all that happened at Claremont. Everyone's got its bad sides that happens to it, but it made it difficult. And then that time through the early 70s to the late 70s, when the sprint car side of it took over, because they are very spectacular. And as you know, even today, some of it gets tough when you watch them, that they single file race and they drop their slide jobs, which they're not, the sprint cars aren't too bad with it. But look, the other night watching Dane Kinshop, he did an absolutely fantastic job. Worked his way from where he did, and Caden Manders, let's face it, what a job for two speed car drivers, or midgets, whatever you prefer, to come out and be competitive like that was just so good.
I mean, Chuck the late Fig in there. He was insane in a speed car, but he was just as good in a sprint car in a lot of ways.
He was excellent.
Do you think that speed car drivers make good sprint car drivers because of the way that you have to drive a speed car back in there?
You have to learn throttle control. Throttle control's the biggest thing. The wing you've got, the downforce that gives you to get your traction and what you can do with it. And then today's modern times with, Jeff Murphy is a very, very good man with suspensions. A lot of guys look at it and say, Murph's getting a bit older, but everything he's getting old with is up here. And that guy knows what he's doing. You know?
So much knowledge.
He's a very good man. And a very, very tidy with Alf, what he was when they bought that Trussell car, raced that. We had a bit to do with Bob Trussell through the time. And with sprint cars, speed cars, whatever you like, racing is fantastic. And it really gives some credit to Duncan Trott. He did a great job. And Caden Manders, how cool was he? Kept it smart. And of course the feature race with John Day, won by Tommy Buddha, as his nickname is, he did a great job. He's a guy that can just run anywhere and do everything.
You actually see Buddha, where he's gone from getting in a car and mashing the pedal and going crazy, then now he's starting to settle down, he's starting to get that racing knowledge. And
I'd like him to settle down, because he's so superior in a lot of areas that he can do. He looks so class to what he can do. And some of the times they're unfortunate what happens, but he's a man in a hurry. But believe it or not, he's got plenty of time, because the others are nowhere near him. I mean, one of the guys running as good as he can is Dan Golding. Absolute credit to him.
They've been good actually.
And I'm very happy for the Graham family, who that's one of their motors in that car with the GRD that Barry put together, and Jamie McKinley, who looks after that engine like he does with Rodney Bennett's Toyota. I mean, they're really good engines, good stuff. But Buddha, whatever you want to call him, Tommy, he is a very good driver, very level-headed. Sometimes he's in a bit more of a hurry than he needs to be. Because it's there anyway.
That's experience. That's just
he's not
laps.
He's not a lot of laps.
He's won a lot of 5.
And he's won that many races. But he always gets the impression that I've got to do it now. But now is just around the corner. But ain't this straight selection. We've got plenty to go. Saw him race in the Australian title at Waterloo, and he did a brilliant job. He didn't win it, but he did a brilliant job. Where he started and how smooth he kept it and what he did, full credit to him. He's a great racer, and he'll go a long way. But he can go a lot quicker by being a little slower. It sounds stupid, but you ever heard the faster I go, the behinder I get? That guy, he could wait whatever. You saw him start at the rear of the field. Next thing you know, he blasts them away. No, he's very good. And there's a lot of real good interest in speed car racing right now. There's some cars that are over him, we believe, but haven't hit the racetrack yet. But I think they'll be there soon, and we'll have a lot of excitement of the efforts that the Jones family put in.
There's so many people in.
He'll have Michael Pickens here before the end of the year. I know him. He can't help himself. Loves it. Absolutely loves it. And I don't blame him. He's a good bloke. He enjoys his racing. We all love to race. And it's a hard job. You get so many people come along. This is what you got to do. I've heard it all the time.
This is what you got to do.
But we just can't. Inventing the wheel is a hard job.
Let's get back to when you did in '75 you went and raced and won the Australian Championship, and then you went to Liverpool and won it the next year. Two totally different places, states, two totally different tracks. You won a couple of feature races before your title in Liverpool, but what was it like to go to a paved track, rock up? You got all these guys that have been racing on for years. Here's John Fenton from Western Australia. I'm going to come and try and win this Australian title.
I mean, they thought we probably couldn't get it around, but I went there just before the start of the season when Mike Raymond took me there. He was a great promoter and a good friend, and he took us to Liverpool and we won the feature race that night. Then I had to wait until February when they had the title, and believe it or not, we blew an engine in practice.
Right, is that the crankshaft there?
Yeah, it broke a crankshaft, and because we had the courtesy of Ansett Airlines having a spare engine sitting at the airport for me.
That's nice, isn't it?
They flew it over, but they weren't that heavy, you know, but they could throw it in, and that was already there. And I said to Tony Bartlett, and actually Ross Nickerson was there at the time, who was a famed speed car driver. He was there, and he said, well, we're going to go to the airport and get the car and come back and get this thing in, because they called the night off because it rained.
So it was basically a bonus to you that it rained.
Without the rain, it was gone. And we had this other motor there which had a Macraza crank in it. It wasn't a roller crank. And Nico and I jumped in the car, and away we went to Sydney Airport. And it was a hard job back in '76 to get from Liverpool to the airport, pick up an engine and get back. And then we were staying at the Altura Hotel in Liverpool, at the motel there. And they put the engine in the room.
In the actual room?
The car was at the door, but we had to get a few bits off the other engine and put them on that engine and get it out and put it in the car out in the hallway. People were walking past, and the guy that was running the joint went past me. Here's the coffee table sitting out here with a Volkswagen motor on it. And we're just slipping her in, and we got the motor in and went out there and qualified to start around about 6 or 7, somewhere there.
Right, yeah.
I mean, I know one guy tells a story, I started at the rear, but I didn't, you know.
Right.
But we started about there somewhere, dropped a few places in the feature race, and then just started working away. But it made it difficult that we didn't get practice properly because of the broken crank. Yeah. But we got a bonus by the rain out.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have won it. Yeah. Obviously, we weren't going to be in it.
Yeah.
And it was a hard job to run down Tatnall and Ronald Mackay, who was a great man on pavement or dirt, whatever they were on. Those guys were tough.
Yeah.
And we worked away at it, and eventually, about halfway through, a bit over, I slipped under Ronald Mackay and got to it. Then I was concerned that I was going to burn this thing up. I burned the tyres because they reckon tyres, they blister, so you can't flatten it.
Yep.
You got to run
throttle control.
You got to use throttle control, and you get around in about 14.5 seconds on the quarter mile up on the wall.
What was the G-forces like back in the day?
Really tough. Yeah, your neck was getting around here, and we used to put something under here. And, there was one incident happened there where they tried to say that we cheated, but my exhaust pipe wasn't long enough. The exhaust pipe had to be within 2 inches of the left rear wheel tyre.
Right.
And because we put pavement tyres on it, it wasn't.
Yeah, just a bit lower profile.
Yeah, lower profile. It was about 3 or 4 inches away because the whole car went down. It was a different setup. We used high 24-inch high tyres.
Things they worry about.
And they said, oh, you can't run that. So we grabbed the Coke can, cut it with Jubilee clip, screwed her on, and they are you happy now?
Coke can,
that's what it was. That's it. And that's what happened. But look, wasn't the drivers, everyone builds up different senses of direction on what they think's right and what's wrong and who's cheating and who's not. And that's what we did. And that got us to win.
Yeah.
And it was just a time in your life where it's just fantastic.
Yeah. And
we went from there to South Australia, and I think we won the feature. We got about 3rd or something there, and then came back to Claremont. And the Volkswagen, that was the first car that we had that was a fully imported race car, and the other one were all made, and that made it better. And we built the parallel bar car with the Graham family racing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gary Gardner family, we built with them, and they did a great job. He went to America with us, with Gary Gardner. Noel Bradford went with us, and Blair Shepherd, and we made a lot of the parts were made in Australia, and
Yeah.
we sent the car over earlier, the chassis, and then when everything we got was new when we put it in it, and when we left, we landed in San Francisco, and Noel and his wife Quenny and Blair and Gary and I can't think of his wife. Well, we'll get his wife's name. It's bad.
That's all right.
Eunice.
Yeah, they're good. It's fun.
And the way we went, and we got the hire car, and we went to Sacramento because we were. Oh, they race in Sacramento Friday night. We'll be there. But it was called off. They weren't racing.
No.
So we get there, and my wife Jan says, "Oh, where's my bag?" Because we'd put all these parts for the engines and everything we needed for the car to put together in the bags. And we left them behind at the airport. Right? San Francisco Airport. So next morning we're at Sacramento, which is 150 mile away.
Yeah.
We'd walk down the freeway and pull up there. We pull up at the airport, and there's this big dark fella there. You've got to be careful what you say, but he was.
Well, he was.
Yeah, he was, exactly.
Telling the truth. Yeah.
And anyway, we got there, and I said, "Oh, look, mate, there's a couple of cases." Yep, got them right there. There they were sitting on the ground, right there.
Right.
Now today that would have been bomb scare, everyone shut down, rose up the USA, you know. Well, this is a Donald Trump bloody extra-petite. Extra-petite, you like that? they would have said, "Oh, that's it, who did this?"
Yeah, so you just walked up and
I picked them up and thanks, and away we went.
Wow.
Huh? So we got the car together and went and raced at Ascot Park.
Yep.
And it was good fun, but we stayed at Bobby Oliveira's place back in, at that time, 78. It was very interesting. I bought went to Hallobrand to pick up our diff for the car, and Ted Hallobrand was there, and Blair Shepherd, who was a pretty smooth operator, he said, "Now tell me, Ted, have you got anything in the back room that's got to be gotten rid of?" He said, "I've got all these mag wheels, Blair."
Yeah.
So we get out, and he says, "Now we want the lot." Well, he said, "Well, not the lot." Well, he must have had 80 or 100 wheels there, and I bought a whole lot.
Jeez.
Real cheap. Can't tell you the price because it'd make everyone mad. Really, all these Hallobrand wheels. Gary Gardner got his share. Noel said he wanted a few for the offie because he was restoring it, but he wouldn't have been restoring it. Willie Moore would have had to do that. Anyway, we had all these mag wheels and everything. By the time we got to the next shot, everyone knew that we had all these Hallobrand wheels. "Oh, can we get these wheels?" No, mate, they're going to Australia.
Yeah.
Hey?
Unreal.
And we did. We took them all to Thermo King in Twin Cities, St. Paul, Twin Cities. I went up there with Noel Bradford. We got a truck from U-Haul. We hired this car. I bought another chassis and everything from Mel Kenya. And we went up to St. Paul, Twin Cities with Noel, Thermo King, and went over the whole place, everything we did. Oh, they looked after us, really magnificent.
Yeah.
Couldn't believe it. The whole thing we looked after, and the guy that was sent to look after us had a Corvette Stingray. And he said, "Oh, you can use the Corvette while I'm not here." So we used the Corvette.
Nice.
And we're driving through in the St. Paul, the Twin Cities, and we drive up the road and look up there, and there's all these trees, and there used to be squirrels in the trees. They're true.
Right.
And we come and there's this guy laying on the ground, and he's laying on the ground. I pulled up with the Corvette, get out, and I look around the front. There's this bloke laying on the ground.
Yep.
And look, this is a bit of a no-no.
No, you're good. Yeah, it's all right. Yeah, keep going.
There's this guy laying on the ground, and I looked at Noel and said, "Yeah, looked like we'd hit him." And I looked at the front of the Corvette, and it's got all these dents in the front of it. And I looked up at Noel and I said, "No, we could be in trouble here." And the big chap said, "No, you could be." And he's a funny man. He threw me straight in there. No, you could be. I thought, "Oh, great." But we weren't. The guy come to, and we got him going, give him back the squirrel. And
Well, we're going to take a break, and that's the end of part 2. We're going to come back with part 3 with some more stories from the fabulous and the great one, the legend, John Fenton.
Yeah, thank you.